Hey guys! Tonight we're diving into the life of an Ottoman bookbinder from the 17th century. Imagine waking up before dawn in the heart of Istanbul, where the city's sounds and smells have already begun to stir. The streets are alive, with merchants calling out their wares. The scent of fresh bread fills the air, and the steady murmur of the Bosphorus whispers in the background. But you're in your workshop, where the day will begin with the careful art of bookbinding. It's not glamorous, it's not fast, but the work has meaning that most people can't even begin to fathom. You probably won't survive this, so to speak, long hours. Patience that requires a saint's level of calm, and more ink stains than you care to count. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, feel free to drop a comment with your location. In local time, I'd love to know where you're listening from. Now dim the lights maybe, turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The sun's barely peeking through the window, casting a soft, muted light across the workshop. You stretch, feeling the weight of the night's rest still lingering on your muscles. It's another day, another chance to add to the long, unbroken line of bookbinders who've come before you. The smell of parchment leather and ink already fills the room, mixing with the faint scent of wood shavings on the floor and the faint, musty air of your shop. The work is slow, meticulous, but rewarding in ways that can only be understood by those who spend their lives in such a craft. It's hard to imagine how long people have been doing this, how many generations of artisans have come and gone, all for the love of creating something that carries knowledge, beauty, and history. As you set to work, you pause and look over your tools. The hammer, the stitching needles, the ivory bone folders, and of course, the press. That's always just a little too stubborn to close, right when you need it to. Yet somehow, you've mastered the tools in front of you. In this very moment, you're connected not only to your past, but to everyone who has ever picked up a book. Your fingers gently trace the edges of the parchment you'll use, and you can almost feel the weight of centuries pressing down on your shoulders, urging you to carry on the tradition. You reflect for a moment on the reality of your trade. This is no ordinary job. This is sacred work, almost a holy duty. Bookbinding has always been about more than just creating a container for words. It's about preserving knowledge. Those who come to you seeking books are not just customers. They are patrons of a higher cause, a cause that has been revered in this empire since its creation. When you stitch a book together, you're stitching together the past with the future. It's like weaving fate, but with parchment and thread. The delicate hum of your tools fills the air, each action in perfect harmony as you prepare for the task ahead. The process of bookbinding, despite its simplicity in appearance, is as intricate as any form of art. It's a rhythmic dance, pages trimmed to perfection leather, chosen for its durability and ink that flows like a steady stream from the nib of your quill. You glance over the worn workbench, the layers of dust and oil stains that tell the story of your years in this cramped space. A small pot of ink rests beside a stack of parchment, waiting for the day's work to begin. The tools you use may seem basic, but each one is an extension of your spirit. There's the sharp, gleaming knife used to cut the parchment and leather with precision. The needle, thin but incredibly strong, pulls the thread through the thick stacks of pages. The press, heavy and demanding, holds everything in place as the final step of binding is completed. You've become adept at using each one, their handles and edges, worn smooth by years of use. But what truly makes this craft special is the knowledge that it has remained unchanged for centuries. Your fingers don't simply sew pages together. They stitch the essence of history. Historians still argue whether the skill of bookbinding was introduced to the Ottoman Empire through the influence of the Byzantine or the Arab world. But either way, it's clear that the Ottoman Empire played a major role in perfecting the craft. The tradition is older than you, older than your father, and probably older than the very city in which you work. The materials you use aren't just ordinary parchment and leather. They come with stories of their own. The paper is usually made from the finest lambskin imported from across the empire, and each piece of leather is chosen for its color texture and durability. The ink, too, is an art in itself, a rich black liquid created from natural materials, each batch made in small quantities by artisans who treat it like liquid gold. There's something mesmerizing about watching it spread across the page, each stroke a piece of a greater narrative. You'll spend hours preparing the materials, carefully cutting each sheet of parchment with a steady hand. The precision required for this task is no small feat. Each page must be trimmed to the exact size, leaving no room for error. And yet, the slight imperfections, the gentle waves in the parchment, and the uneven edges are what make your work human. They add character, a small flaw that makes the piece unique. The customers don't always see this. They only see the finished product, the perfect bound book that sits on their shelves. But you know better. You know the effort that went into each cut, each stitch, each layer of ink that flows across the page. But even the most skilled artisans like you can't avoid the challenges that come with working with such fine materials. The leather, once soft and supple, becomes stiff over time as you work it. The delicate parchment, when exposed to humidity or heat, can warp or tear. Ink can bleed, and threads can snap. Every day you face a battle against time weather, and even the weight of the books you're binding. Sometimes, despite all your efforts, things don't go as planned. But that's the beauty of it. You learn, adapt, and find a way to make each book as beautiful as the last. The delicate nature of the parchment, the uneven texture of the leather, and the quirks of each batch of ink become part of the story of every book you bind. There's a beauty in imperfection, a certain rawness that gives each book its own soul. The real joy lies in the process, not just in the finished product. The act of binding a book is about creating something that will be passed down through generations, a link between the past and the future. When you hold the completed book in your hands, you realize you're not just holding paper and ink. You're holding knowledge, tradition, and history itself. And for a brief moment, you're part of something much greater than yourself. The morning stretches on, and as you prepare for the next stage of your work, you can't help but marvel at the materials you've chosen. Today, it's time to work with parchment, the very backbone of your craft. Parchment isn't just paper, it's an artifact in itself, its texture telling stories of the animal it came from. Each sheet has been carefully prepared, scraped, and polished to a soft, smooth finish. Its surface holds the potential for something far greater than what it is right now. Your fingers slide over the fine surface, feeling the slight bumps and ridges that give it life. Choosing parchment isn't as easy as picking any old sheet. No, it's a careful decision. For the finest books, you only choose the best, those created from lambskin. there's a quiet ritual in it. The lambskin used for high-quality parchment is sourced from regions within the empire known for their skilled craftspeople. And it's not just any lambskin. It's treated with care, often soaked and then scraped to remove any imperfections. The result is a material that's thin, yet durable soft to the touch, but strong enough to withstand centuries of wear. But parchment isn't the only material you work with. Leather, too, plays a significant role in this craft. It's your job to choose the right leather for each binding. You have access to the finest leather in the empire sourced from tanneries that have been running for generations. Leather can come in all textures and colors, but you prefer to use deep, rich hues, usually brown or black, that will complement the gold leaf and intricate designs you'll add later. The leather is soft and supple to start, but it will stiffen as it is worked. The first step in binding a book is to select the right piece of leather, then cut it to size. The work is tedious, but necessary. Each curve, each edge must be perfect. When you look at the leather, you see it not just as material, but as a part of the soul of the book. The leather will protect what lies inside, but it will also be an ornament, a first introduction to the knowledge that will be stored within the pages. Historians still argue about the origins of parchment, some claiming it was invented by the ancient Egyptians, others insisting it was developed by the Greeks. Regardless, one thing is clear: the art of parchment making has traveled far and wide, reaching the Ottoman Empire through trade and cultural exchange. Here in Istanbul, you're at the center of it, all working with materials that have been passed down for centuries, each piece telling the story of distant lands and cultures. As you prepare the parchment, you can't help but feel a connection to the past. The knowledge and skills you're using today are the same ones passed down through generations of artisans. The act of preparing the parchment, stretching it across a wooden frame, and carefully scraping away any imperfections is not just a job, it's a legacy. And it's a legacy that you're honored to continue. The slightest mistake could ruin the sheet, and you can't afford that. You've worked hard to learn the art of working with parchment, and now it's second nature. The act of preparing each piece, each page, becomes a rhythm, a quiet dance that brings life to the work at hand. As you continue to scrape and stretch the parchment, the quiet hum of the workshop seems to fade away. It's just you, the leather, the parchment, and the ink. The world outside seems distant, as though you've entered a space between time itself. In this small workshop, you are timeless. The hours pass by unnoticed. The sun is now high in the sky, but you're lost in the craft, each motion of your hand becoming more fluid, more natural. You've lost track of time, but it doesn't matter. The final result is always the same, a piece of art that holds knowledge, that preserves the essence of a time long gone. The parchment, the ink, the leather, all of it will come together to create something sacred. A book carefully bound, holding within it the potential to shape minds, to inform, and to last for centuries. As you hold the parchment in your hands, you can't help but smile at the thought that one day this very book may end up in the hands of a scholar, a sultan, or perhaps someone far beyond your wildest dreams. Someone who will look at your work and feel the history, the weight of the knowledge you've preserved. With the parchment prepped and ready, you move to the next stage, cutting and trimming the pages. This is where the true craftsmanship of bookbinding shines through. It's not enough to simply slice the paper into rough rectangles. Every sheet must be measured with the precision of a master. You reach for your ruler, carefully aligning it along the edge of the parchment before taking the sharp knife and making a clean cut. Each slice feels like a delicate operation, requiring both steadiness and precision. The sheets of parchment must be cut to exactly the right size, or they'll misalign during the binding process, making the book look uneven, sloppy. There's something meditative about this part of the process. The steady motion of cutting the pages, the satisfying crispness of the parchment yielding under the blade, it's a simple act, yet so crucial. As you work, you can't help but think about the books you're preparing. They're not just going to be read, they will be treasured. Each page you cut is a piece of the history that will soon be contained within these bindings. You're shaping not just paper, but the future. It's an act of creation, and like any artist, you pour your attention into every detail. The first step is to cut the edges of each sheet of parchment, smoothing out any imperfections. You take great care to avoid any tears, being mindful that even the slightest mistake could damage the work. Your eyes narrow with focus as you cut, making sure that every page is perfectly aligned. You're not just cutting paper, you're shaping a future, a legacy. Every inch of parchment represents potential knowledge that will soon be bound together and made whole. Once you've cut all the pages to the correct size, it's time to smooth out the edges. A smooth edge is essential for a professional clean finish. This is where your bone folder comes into play, a simple yet incredibly effective tool used to crease and smooth the pages. You move the bone folder along the edges of each page, pressing gently but firmly, making sure the edges are perfectly straight. It's another small detail that adds to the overall effect. The pages must not only be functional, but also beautiful to the eye. As you work, you reflect on how books were once seen as precious objects, symbols of knowledge, status, and power. In the 17th century, books were rare and expensive, often owned only by the wealthiest of scholars, sultans, and merchants. The bookbinder's work was seen as sacred, for the books they crafted would carry the weight of knowledge, ideas, and even the fate of nations. Every time you cut a page, smooth an edge, or stitch a binding, you are taking part in something much larger than yourself. Your work is not just about the physical object. It's about preserving the very essence of civilization. Historians still argue whether the shift from scrolls to codex books had a profound impact on the accessibility of knowledge in the Islamic world. But one thing is clear: the codex format, which you are working with today, made books much more portable and easier to read. In a world where knowledge was both prized and scarce, the book was a precious commodity, and its preservation was a matter of great importance. Every cut you make, every page you smooth, is a nod to the centuries of knowledge passed down from the ancients, from the scholars of Alexandria to those working in the great libraries of Baghdad and Cairo. The bookbinding process is both a labor of love and an act of reverence. You are preparing the pages of a book, but more than that, you are preparing a vessel for the ideas, stories, and histories that will be carried within it. Each book is an artifact, a piece of the past, carefully preserved for future generations. And though the process may seem slow and repetitive, it's actually a quiet form of resistance against the ravages of time. The books you create will outlast you, just as the books of the past have outlasted their creators. In the face of everything that changes in the world, the written word remains constant. With the pages now cut and smoothed, you prepare for the next stage of the process, stitching them together. But before that, you pause, letting the weight of the task sink in. You know that you're not just creating a book. You're creating something that will be read, studied, and revered. You're building a bridge to the past, one page at a time. And in the quiet moments of your workshop, the world outside fading away, you realize just how profound your work truly is. Now that the pages are prepped and ready, it's time for the art of illumination. This is the stage where you really get to play with the materials and let your creativity shine. Though, in truth, it's a careful, deliberate type of creativity. You begin by selecting the most important pages, those that will carry the opening lines of the text or the title page, perhaps. These are the pages that will set the tone for the entire book, so they must be perfect. You move over to the small wooden table that holds your pigments, brushes, and gilding tools. The room is dim, with only the faintest slivers of sunlight creeping in through the workshop's narrow windows. You first reach for the gold leaf, a precious material that turns even the simplest manuscript into something grand. The delicate, shimmering sheets are as thin as air, fragile in your hands. Carefully, you lift a small piece of gold leaf from the pile and set it onto the page. It takes a steady hand and a practiced eye to apply the gold correctly. It can't be rushed. You press it gently onto the parchment, smoothing it out until it sticks to the ink. The gold glows under the dim light of the room, adding a rich, luxurious quality to the page. Illuminating the page in gold is more than just a decorative task. It is an ancient practice that has been used to signify the importance of certain texts. In the Islamic world, illuminated manuscripts were not just works of art. They were considered sacred objects worthy of divine attention. The gold and intricate designs added an aura of reverence and importance to the text within. The very act of adding gold to the page imbued the work with a sense of sanctity, as though it was more than just paper and ink. It was a vessel of wisdom. You take your time, allowing the gold leaf to dry before moving on to the next step, adding the colorful illuminations. Here, you will use natural pigments to create designs that will frame the text, weaving intricate patterns that echo the beauty of the written word. You dip your brush into a bowl of indigo, carefully painting delicate swirls and shapes around the margins. The indigo is deep and rich, like the sky at night, and it contrasts beautifully with the gold. You then switch to red and green pigments, filling in the rest of the design, creating a border that will catch the eye of anyone who opens the book. Historians still debate the origins of manuscript illumination. Some argue that it started with early Christian texts, while others trace its roots back to the ancient Egyptians and Persians. Regardless of its beginnings, by the 17th century, it was a highly refined art, with bookbinders and scribes working in tandem to produce the most beautiful, intricate manuscripts imaginable. You often wonder if those who hold these illuminated texts will truly understand the amount of work and care that went into creating them. Each brushstroke is a silent conversation with the past, a reminder that your work will outlast the fleeting nature of time. As the pigments begin to set, you take a moment to reflect on the value of what you're doing. In this workshop, the act of creating books isn't just about the finished product. It's about preserving knowledge, beauty, and history. The work you're doing today will last for centuries, perhaps longer. One day, someone will open one of the books you've bound and read the words inside. They may not know your name or see the effort you put into the pages, but your legacy will live on in the beauty of your work. There's something humbling about that, something quietly powerful. You continue adding the illuminations, working slowly, methodically. The designs become more intricate as you move from page to page. You add flourishes to the corners, swirling patterns of vines leaves, in geometric shapes that seem to dance across the page. Your hand moves fluidly now, almost instinctively. The work is demanding, yes, but it's also deeply fulfilling. There's a joy in watching a page come to life before your eyes, transforming from a simple sheet of parchment into a work of art. And yet, there's a sadness, too. As much as you love the act of illumination, you know that not every book will receive this treatment. The customers who come to you often ask for a more basic binding one that doesn't require the luxury of gold leaf or intricate designs. But those are the books you treasure most, the ones where you can pour your soul into every page, where every brushstroke feels like a prayer. Those are the books that will stand the test of time. The others, the simple bindings, will still have their place, but they won't hold the same reverence. As the last touch of color dries on the page, you step back and take in your work. It's beautiful, more than you ever imagined when you first started. The golden light glows softly under the dim light of your workshop. The swirls of color are perfect, and the manuscript is ready for its next phase. You can already imagine the finished book, its pages, bound the leather cover, embossed the ink and gold shining through. The act of illumination is a small step in the long journey of bookbinding, but it's one that transforms the book into something truly special. It's the moment when the book stops being just paper and becomes a work of art, a testament to the time, effort, and love that went into its creation. And as you step back and admire the work, you can't help but feel a sense of pride. You've just created something that will live on long after you're gone. The time has come to move on to the binding process, the final crucial step that will turn the various materials you've prepared into a unified whole. It's not just about making a book. It's about giving it life, a sturdy form that will protect the precious knowledge it contains. You gather the sheets you've carefully trimmed and illuminated, and it's now time to stitch them together, to bind them in such a way that they'll last for centuries. Your workbench is cluttered with tools, each one used for a specific purpose, but it's the needle and thread that will carry the day. You pick up your needle, its shaft, thin and sharp, designed specifically for stitching through the thick layers of parchment. You thread it carefully, the needle gliding easily through the strands of thread, pulling it taut as you prepare for the first stitch. There's a moment of silence in the room, just the faint rustle of parchment as you align the pages and the soft clink of your needle as it enters the paper. The stitching process is methodical, almost ritualistic. You begin at the top of the stack, making your first stitch, pulling the needle through with precision. Each stitch is small but crucial, securing the pages together in a way that's both functional and aesthetically pleasing. As you work your way down, you notice the repetitive motion has a calming effect. The world outside your workshop fades into the background, and you focus only on the task at hand. You are part of something much larger than yourself. This book will one day carry knowledge, ideas, and stories that will travel far beyond the walls of your shop. But the stitching isn't just about function. It's also about the tradition, the continuity of a craft that has been passed down for generations. You are, in a sense, connecting yourself to those who have worked with these same tools, these same materials, in this same process. It's not just a job, it's a heritage. You are creating something that will stand the test of time. The stitching you're doing now will hold the pages together for centuries. This book, in its bound form, will one day be opened by someone, maybe a scholar, maybe a poet, maybe a sultan. It could even find its way into the hands of a commoner. Historians still argue about the exact techniques used by ancient bookbinders, particularly in the Islamic world. Some scholars suggest that the art of bookbinding in the Ottoman Empire was influenced by earlier Byzantine traditions, while others claim it was more closely tied to Arabic and Persian methods. Regardless of the origins, the Ottoman bookbinding technique is considered one of the finest blending form, with function in a way that is still revered today. The act of stitching, while done by hand, requires both strength and finesse. Too tight and the pages may tear. Too loose and the book may fall apart. You must find the perfect balance, like an artist creating a masterpiece. Once the pages are stitched, you carefully set them aside, allowing them to settle into place. The next step is to attach the cover, a step that requires just as much care and precision. You choose your leather, carefully ensuring that it complements the gold leaf and vibrant illuminations you've already applied. The leather is soft yet strong, and you begin to cut it to the right size, ensuring that it will wrap around the pages seamlessly. As you prepare the cover, you think about the significance of this step. The cover is more than just a protective shell. It's a statement. It's the first thing a reader will see when they pick up the book, the first impression that will guide their expectations of what lies inside. The leather cover represents not just the physical protection of the manuscript, but its prestige, its value. The leather you choose will determine whether the book is seen as a common text or a priceless artifact. You attach the leather to the spine, folding it carefully over the edges of the pages. The process is slow and deliberate, but you know that every move counts. The leather must be tight, but not too tight. It must be smooth, with no wrinkles or bulges. And you can already picture the final result, a perfectly bound book, its leather cover gleaming in the soft light of your workshop. You're almost done. The final piece of the puzzle is coming together, and soon your work will be ready for the world. Once the cover is securely attached, you set the book aside and allow it to rest for a while. It needs time to settle, time for the glue to dry and the leather to firm up. The workshop is quiet now. The only sound, the soft creak of the wooden beams above you. You take a deep breath, letting the calm settle over you. There's something about the act of finishing a book, of seeing all the pieces come together, that is deeply satisfying. It's a sense of accomplishment, of knowing that you've created something that will last, something that will carry ideas, knowledge, and stories through time. In this moment, you're not just a bookbinder. You're a creator, a guardian of knowledge, in a link in a chain that stretches back centuries. You've done more than just bind a book, you've preserved a piece of history. And that in itself is a legacy worth being proud of. The day stretches on as you turn your attention to the finer details, the little touches that will elevate this book from a simple object into a work of art. The leather cover has dried and settled, and now it's time to add the final flourishes. You pick up the gilding tools, your steady hands, ready to bring the cover to life with intricate designs. The gold leaf, already used to illuminate the pages, is now reserved for the spine and corners of the cover. This is where you truly have the freedom to get creative, but you also know it must be done with restraint. The gold leaf must shine without overwhelming the design. You begin with the spine, carefully placing small pieces of gold leaf onto the surface. It's a delicate process requiring a light touch. You don't want to overdo it. The book must remain dignified, a fitting container for the knowledge it holds within. The gold sparkles as it adheres to the leather, creating a contrast between the matte surface and the shimmering gold. The effect is subtle, yet striking. You can almost feel the book's weight increasing with the addition of these final, luxurious touches. Once the spine is adorned, you move to the corners, adding the same gold leaf in small, deliberate strokes. The gold is a perfect contrast to the deep brown leather, catching the light and adding a touch of opulence. You pause and step back, admiring the effect. It's subtle, but the book feels different, now more complete, more alive. Each corner, each stroke of gold feels like a nod to the centuries of tradition that have gone into creating this piece of art. While the gold leaf is still setting, you take a moment to reflect on the process. This is the final step, the culmination of hours, days, and sometimes even weeks of work. But the binding isn't just a physical process, it's a journey, one that connects you to the past, to the artisans who came before you. It's humbling, really, to think that you're carrying on a craft that has been passed down through generations. The art of bookbinding is as old as writing itself, and each time you create a book, you become a part of that lineage. The weight of history presses down on you in the quiet of the workshop. This book, the one you've poured your soul into, will carry the thoughts and ideas of a previous generation to the next. It's an incredible responsibility, and yet it's one that you take on gladly. After all, what is more valuable than knowledge? What better way to preserve it than in the form of a beautifully crafted book, bound with care, stitched with precision, and illuminated with gold? Once the gilding is complete and the cover has dried, you begin the process of pressing the book. The press is heavy and powerful, designed to ensure that the pages, now securely stitched together, hold firm and straight. You place the book into the press, gently squeezing it until the pages align perfectly, making sure that the binding holds tight without damaging the delicate leather or parchment. The press works silently, but you can feel the book settling into its final shape, becoming solid, tangible. Historians still debate the effectiveness of early presses, wondering whether the pressure applied by hand was enough to create a binding that would last centuries. But in your hands, the press is a simple but powerful tool. It's part of the larger tradition of craftsmanship that has kept books intact through wars, fires, and the passage of time. The final result will be a book that's not only a treasure of knowledge, but also a piece of history, one that could survive for generations to come. As you remove the book from the press and admire your work, you can't help but feel a sense of pride. It's not just that you've made a book, it's that you've created something that will endure. In your hands, the past and the future are intertwined. This book will carry the wisdom of ancient scholars, the words of poets, and the thoughts of thinkers for centuries, and you have been the one to craft it. In a world where so much is fleeting, where things are made quickly and tossed aside, it's rare to create something that lasts. You hold the finished book in your hands, the leather warm and textured beneath your fingers, the gold leaf gleaming on the cover. It's a masterpiece, each page perfectly stitched, each illumination carefully painted, each detail meticulously crafted. You've done more than just bind a book. You've created a bridge to the past, a vessel that will carry knowledge forward, and you've done so with your hands, your skill, and your passion. This book is a reflection of you and of the tradition you carry on. As the final stages of the binding process unfold, the workshop is bathed in a quiet, almost reverent atmosphere. The book, now fully formed, sits on your workbench, its cover soft under your fingers. It's almost as if it's waiting for its own debut, for its own moment to shine. But before you can send it off to the customer or the library, there's one more task: the embossing. You've already completed the hard part, the stitching, the illuminations, the gilding, but the embossing will give the book a final, regal touch. This is where you can truly make it yours. You prepare the embossing tools, each one a steel stamp shaped in different designs. Some are simple geometric shapes, others intricate symbols or figures that will adorn the cover. For this particular manuscript, the design you've chosen is a delicate arabesque pattern, one that reflects the beauty of Islamic art, intricate, flowing, and timeless. The embossing is meant to be subtle, adding depth to the leather without overshadowing the gold leaf. It's a mark of craftsmanship, a signature of your work. With steady hands, you heat the metal stamps over the fire, ensuring they're hot enough to press into the leather, but not so hot that they'll burn the delicate material. The hiss of the metal against the heated surface sends a chill through the workshop, but you focus on the task at hand. You press the first stamp into the center of the cover, leaving behind a faint yet visible design. It's perfect. The embossing is subtle, but it gives the book a sense of depth and weight. As you continue adding the stamps, you marvel at how each one transforms the leather, elevating it from simple protection to a decorative, functional piece of art. The embossing process is slow, but it's meditative in its own way. Each stamp pressed into the leather is like a whisper from the past, a quiet tribute to the artisans who crafted books long before you. The smell of the heated metal mingles with the scent of leather ink and parchment, and for a moment, you lose track of time. It's just you and the book. The outside world, the bustling streets of Istanbul, the merchants, the noise fades away, leaving you in your own world of craftsmanship. Once the embossing is done, you take a step back and survey the finished work. The design is flawless, a beautiful complement to the gold leaf and illuminations. The book is complete, ready for its journey. Whether it will end up in the hands of a scholar or a sultan, it's now an object of lasting beauty and value. You can't help but feel a deep sense of satisfaction. It's the kind of satisfaction that only comes from creating something with your hands, something that has meaning beyond the immediate something that will outlast you. Historians still argue whether the Ottomans' early use of embossing was influenced by the Byzantine Empire's traditions of decorative bookbinding. But what's certain is that the Ottoman bookbinding style developed into one of the most sophisticated and revered in the world. The book you've just finished is not just a product of your labor. It's a link in a long chain of bookbinding traditions, stretching from the ancient world to the present day. And as you hold the finished product in your hands, you know that you've added to that legacy. As the book rests on the table before you're ready to be delivered to its destination, you take one final moment to reflect on the significance of your work. The process of bookbinding, as tedious and meticulous as it may be, is also a labor of love, a tribute to knowledge, beauty, and the written word. The work you do here in this small workshop may seem insignificant in the grand scheme of things, but it's part of something much larger. You're not just creating books, you're preserving knowledge, ensuring that the stories, ideas, and wisdom of past generations will continue to be passed on. And as you look out the window, the sun beginning to set over the horizon, you realize that your work is far from over. There will always be another manuscript, to bind another page, to illuminate, and another book to create. But for now, as the book rests in front of you, you take pride in knowing that you've given life to something beautiful, something that will last far beyond this day, far beyond this workshop. This book, like all the others you've created, will carry the legacy of your craft through the ages. As the light outside begins to fade, signaling the end of another long day, you take a moment to examine your surroundings. The workshop feels like a sanctuary, quiet, filled with the comforting smell of leather ink and parchment. This space is where you've spent countless hours, days, even years, perfecting your craft. It's not much, just a small room, tucked away from the chaos of the bustling streets outside. But to you, it's everything. Every inch of this place holds memories of books completed, of customers who've come and gone, of long nights spent stitching together knowledge and beauty. You take the finished book, its smooth leather cover, now adorned with intricate embossing, and place it gently in your hands. The weight of it is substantial, not just physically, but metaphorically. This book is a testament to your skill, your dedication, and your connection to the generations of bookbinders who have come before you. You can feel the history of your craft in the way the leather bends under your fingers, in the texture of the parchment, and in the glittering gold leaf that adorns its edges. You know that this book will carry knowledge far beyond this workshop, and in a way, you've become a part of something much larger than yourself. You carefully place the book on a shelf among others that you've finished in the past. Each one is unique, but they all share a common thread, a connection to the past, a commitment to craftsmanship, and a dedication to preserving knowledge. Your work is not just about making beautiful objects. It's about ensuring that the stories and ideas contained within these pages will endure. The books you've crafted today might one day be in the hands of a scholar, a merchant, or even a ruler, but you know that no matter who holds them, they will always carry the imprint of your labor. The room is silent, now the only sound, the faint rustle of parchment as the evening breeze drifts through the open window. You feel a sense of peace settle over you. The day has been long, but it has been fulfilling. You've taken raw materials and transformed them into something extraordinary. The process was slow, yes, but that was the point. Each step, each stitch, each stroke of gold was deliberate and intentional. There was no room for haste in your craft. It was about precision, patience, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. Historians often wonder about the significance of a bookbinder's role in the preservation of knowledge. Some argue that the true value of a book doesn't lie in the content within, but in the craftsmanship that goes into making the physical object. Others say that the bookbinder's art is an essential part of the storytelling process, for without the binding, the text would be scattered, disjointed, and ultimately forgotten. For you, however, the answer is clear. The book is both a vessel and a treasure. The work you do ensures that knowledge is carried forward, not just as words on a page, but as an object worthy of reverence and preservation. As you sit back in your chair, gazing at the finished books lining the shelves, a feeling of contentment washes over you. This is your calling, your purpose. You were meant to be a bookbinder, to carry on the traditions that have been passed down through the ages. The books you've created today may be just one small part of the larger story of human history, but in a way, they are your contribution. They are your legacy. The thought lingers as you look around the shop. This space, this humble room filled with tools and books, holds the stories of many of scholars, of emperors, of poets, and of everyday people who valued knowledge enough to seek it out, to protect it, and to pass it on. The world outside may be loud, chaotic, and ever-changing, but here in this small corner of the Ottoman Empire, time seems to stand still. The work you do has transcended the need for modern tools or shortcuts. It's about craftsmanship, about the slow, steady hand of an artisan, creating something that will endure. You take a deep breath, the cool evening air filling your lungs. The day's work is complete, but the cycle continues. Tomorrow, there will be more books to bind, more customers to satisfy, and more knowledge to preserve. But for tonight, you rest. You've done your work, and it's beautiful. It's something that will last long after the ink fades and the pages yellow with age. As the workshop quiets and the evening deepens, your eyes begin to grow heavy. The sounds of the bustling city outside seem to blur, becoming distant and faint. The air feels thick with the weight of centuries, and for a brief moment, you feel as though you are part of something much larger than yourself. In this tiny room, where the smell of ink and leather permeates the air, you are connected to generations of bookbinders, scribes, and scholars who have come before you. Their stories, their knowledge live on through the books you craft, the books that will one day carry their ideas into the future. The process of bookbinding is more than just a job. It's a form of storytelling. Every stitch, every stroke of gold, leaf, and every piece of parchment you touch is part of a much larger narrative, a narrative that spans time and space. It's a story about the preservation of knowledge, about the power of words to shape the future, and about the delicate art of creating something that will last. The books you bind today will survive long after you are gone, and the knowledge they contain will continue to influence generations to come. Historians still debate the role of bookbinders in preserving knowledge throughout history. Some argue that the true value of the book lies in the text, while others claim that the binding itself is just as important. What is certain, however, is that the bookbinder's craft has played a vital role in the preservation and dissemination of knowledge. You are, in essence, a guardian of history, a keeper of stories. Your work ensures that the wisdom of the past will never be forgotten, that the voices of ancient scholars will continue to resonate in the minds of those who read the books you create. As the final touch to the binding is applied, you step back and take a moment to admire your work. The book is complete, its cover gleaming in the soft light of the workshop. You've transformed simple materials, parchment leather and gold, into a beautiful, functional work of art. The knowledge contained within the pages is now preserved for future generations. It's a small victory, but it's a victory nonetheless. The book will carry its ideas forward, just as books have done for centuries, and in that, there is a quiet satisfaction. You gently set the book aside, its weight, a reminder of the effort you've put into its creation. The process may have been slow, but it has been worth it. There is a certain peace that comes with knowing that you have done something meaningful, something that will outlast the passage of time. You have created something beautiful and lasting, something that will continue to serve its purpose long after you've left this world. In a way, it's as though you've captured a small piece of eternity within the pages of this book. The evening has grown late, and the shop is bathed in a soft amber light. You take a moment to reflect on the day's work, on the books you've bound, and on the legacy you are a part of. The workshop may be quiet now, but you know that tomorrow it will come alive again with the sounds of parchment being cut, leather being stitched, and knowledge being preserved. And you'll be there, as you always have been, continuing the work that has been passed down through the ages. As you slowly close the door to the workshop, the cool night air hits your face, a reminder that the world outside still moves, still pulses with life, but in your small corner of the world, time has slowed. For you, the bookbinding process is not just a profession, it's a way of life. You are a part of something eternal, something that has persisted for centuries. And in that, there is a deep sense of fulfillment, a quiet pride in knowing that you are continuing a tradition that has lasted for as long as books have been made. You pause at the threshold of the door, taking one last look at the shelves lined with the books you've created. Each one holds a piece of history, a fragment of the past that will continue to shape the future. The work you've done today will live on long after you're gone, just as the books of the past have endured for generations. And that in itself is enough. The night falls deeper, and as you close the door to the workshop, the world outside seems to hush. It's almost as if the universe is waiting with you, letting the work of the day settle before it begins again tomorrow. You leave the warmth of the shop behind, stepping out into the cool evening air. Istanbul, bathed in the golden glow of the setting sun, still hums with life. The distant call of a muezzin echoes from the minarets, blending with the soft clinking of the metal carts and the chatter of the street vendors. But for you, there's a quiet contentment in knowing that you've just finished another day of creating something that matters. The book you've bound now, carefully placed on your shelf, is more than just pages stitched together. It's a piece of history, preserved and protected, ready to carry knowledge into the future. The quiet beauty of the craft lingers with you as you walk down the narrow cobblestone streets of the city. The bustle of the world around you feels distant, almost like a dream, while your thoughts are consumed with the process that fills your days, the art of bookbinding. Your walk through the city is slow, deliberate. The weight of the day's work still sits with you, but there's a peacefulness that accompanies it. As you pass by the ancient stone walls, you imagine the many hands that have passed through these streets before you, scholars, travelers, merchants, each one with their own stories, each one contributing to the larger narrative of the world. The Ottoman Empire, with its centuries-old history of scholarship, culture, and art, pulses through the very air you breathe. And as a bookbinder, you feel as though you are part of that pulse, a small yet vital part of a much larger story. You pass a small cafe, the scent of freshly baked bread and brewed coffee spilling out onto the street. The warmth and bustle of the place draw you in, but you know it's not time to rest just yet. There's a quiet ritual that accompanies the end of a workday, making your way home, reflecting on the day's labor, and knowing that the next day, the work will begin again. The book you've just finished may be done for now, but there will be others to bind, other books to preserve. Historians still argue whether bookbinding was a sacred craft in the Ottoman Empire or simply a necessary skill to keep the growing demand for books and manuscripts satisfied. What is certain, however, is that it was both. Bookbinding was revered as a means of preserving knowledge, but it was also a vital profession for the functioning of the empire. The texts produced by scholars and scribes could only survive if they were treated with the care and reverence you've shown in your workshop. The physical object of the book became more than just a container for words. It became a vessel for culture and history. As you walk, you pass the grand minaret of a mosque, its towering presence reminding you of the grandeur of the empire in which you live. You can't help but feel a sense of awe at the way the city blends the old with the new, the ancient architecture, the lively markets, and the modern-day hustle and bustle. But it's in the quiet, unassuming corners of the city that the real beauty lies. It's in the small, hidden workshops where artisans like you carry on traditions that have lasted for centuries. At home, you light a small oil lamp, the soft flicker of the flame casting shadows across the room. The evening is calm, and for a brief moment, the weight of the day lifts off your shoulders. You sit down with a cup of tea, the warmth of the drink seeping into your bones. Your mind drifts back to the workshop, the feel of the leather beneath your fingers, the precise movements of your hands as you stitched the pages together. The hours spent carefully applying gold leaf and illuminating the edges of the manuscript. It was slow work, but it was fulfilling. You've created something that will last. You look around your modest room, filled with books, papers, and tools. It's not much, but it's yours. And in this quiet space, you can hear the echoes of history, the voices of those who've come before you, the scholars and scribes who once worked in their own small workshops, preserving the words of the past. You are part of a long line of artisans who have kept knowledge alive, who have passed down the art of bookbinding through the generations. As the night stretches on, you begin to drift off to sleep, the soft glow of the oil lamp flickering in the darkness. Your mind is calm, the worries of the day slipping away. Tomorrow will bring new books to bind, new manuscripts to preserve. But for now, there's rest. The work you've done today is complete, and there's a quiet satisfaction in knowing that you've done your part to ensure that the stories of the past will continue to live on. The night falls deeper, and as you close your eyes, the silence of the workshop echoes in your mind. It's a peaceful feeling, one that stays with you as you slip into sleep, knowing that tomorrow the work will begin again. The following morning arrives, like a gentle wave, softly breaking over your senses as sunlight begins to filter through the workshop's narrow windows. The familiar smell of ink and leather greets you before you even step inside. There's something about the early morning that feels sacred, as if the world itself is holding its breath, waiting for the day to unfold. You stretch slowly, feeling the weight of yesterday's labor still lingering in your muscles. The quiet satisfaction of completing a book, knowing it will be a part of the world long after you've gone, settles within you. It's another day in the workshop, and the cycle begins anew. There are new books to bind, new manuscripts to preserve. You pause before stepping into the shop, taking a deep breath. The air feels different today, charged with a certain energy, perhaps the calm before the storm of work ahead. As you walk toward the workbench, you can't help but smile at the sight of the books you've already completed, their spines gleaming softly in the early light. You wonder where they'll end up, who will read them, and what impact they will have on the future. It's the start of a new day, but it's also a continuation of something much larger than yourself. The knowledge you're preserving is not just for the moment, it's for the ages. And with that thought, you reach for your tools once again, the blade, the thread, the ink, each one an extension of your craft, each one an essential part of the process that will result in another beautiful creation. You take the parchment and begin the careful process of trimming it to size. The knife is steady in your hand, the cut's precise. There's a rhythm to it now, almost like muscle memory. You've done this 1,000 times before, and yet each sheet feels like the first. The sensation of the blade slicing through the parchment is familiar, but there's always something new to learn with each cut. The paper holds a certain resistance, a texture that speaks to its quality. It's a reminder that no matter how many books you bind, each one is unique. The light coming through the window shifts as the day progresses. The workshop feels alive, filled with the energy of the work you're creating. You can hear the soft rhythm of your tools as you work the delicate scratch of the quill against parchment, the steady press of the leather as you smooth it into place. The process is meditative, each step a quiet meditation on the art you've chosen to dedicate your life to. As you stitch the pages together, a sense of calm washes over you. It's easy to lose yourself in the process, to forget the world outside, and simply focus on the task at hand. This is where you find your peace, in the quiet moments of craftsmanship, in the slow, deliberate work that demands your full attention. You are here in this small workshop, but in your mind, you are connected to something much larger. The books you create are more than just objects. They are part of the larger story of human history. Every book you bind carries the weight of knowledge, the ideas of thinkers and scholars, the words of poets and dreamers. You are simply the vessel, the conduit through which these ideas will live on. Historians still argue whether bookbinding in the Ottoman Empire was more than just a trade, or whether it was truly an art form. While the majority of bookbinding in the empire was done for practical purposes, many argue that the Ottoman artisans elevated the craft to an art creating works of beauty that were both functional and visually stunning. Your work sits squarely in that tradition. Each book you bind is not only a practical object, it is a piece of art, a work of craftsmanship that will stand the test of time. You take pride in that, in knowing that the books you create are not just utilitarian. They are beautiful, crafted with care and reverence. As you continue working, you notice how the hours slip by unnoticed. It's a familiar feeling, one that has accompanied you in this workshop for years. The world outside the noise, the bustle, the distractions fades into the background. You are here, in this moment, creating something that will endure. You lose track of time, and for a moment, you feel as if time itself has stopped. There is only the book in front of you, the work of your hands, and the knowledge that you are part of a larger story, a story that will continue long after the ink on the page has faded. The day wears on, and as you finish the final touches on the book, you step back and admire your work. It's another masterpiece, another book that will carry knowledge forward. There's a quiet satisfaction in knowing that this book, like all the others, will live on long after the world has changed. The knowledge contained within it will be passed down through the generations, and your craftsmanship will be remembered as part of that legacy. As the sun sets over the city of Istanbul, you take a moment to reflect on the day's work. Another book has been completed. Another piece of history has been preserved, and tomorrow there will be more to do. More books to bind, more stories to preserve. The work never truly ends. But for now, as the city outside quiets, you allow yourself a moment of rest. The book is done, and the cycle continues. Night falls over the city, and the workshop feels unusually still. It's almost as though the space has settled in alongside you, calming from the day's flurry of activity. The last rays of sunlight slip through the window, casting long shadows across the walls and workbench. The book you've just completed is now resting on the shelf, its leather cover gleaming faintly in the soft light. As you sit back surveying the quiet room, a profound sense of satisfaction washes over you. There's nothing quite like the moment when your book is complete. It's a moment where time stands still, where the world outside fades into the background. But the work isn't truly done yet. There's still the matter of preserving your tools, the instruments that brought this book to life. Each tool, from the sharp knife to the bone folder, from the gilding leaf to the press, has played its part in the process, and each one must be carefully cleaned and put away. You take a moment to wipe down the tools, your movements slow and deliberate. The knife is carefully sharpened, the bone folder smoothed, and the brushes washed free of pigment. It's a simple ritual, but one that you've come to cherish. In these small acts, you not only care for the tools that serve you, but you also honor the tradition of those who have come before. As you work, your thoughts drift back to the history of bookbinding, how this art form has evolved over centuries, traveling across cultures and empires, preserving knowledge and beauty. From the scrolls of ancient Egypt to the illuminated manuscripts of the Middle Ages, bookbinding has always been an essential part of preserving human history. The Ottomans, with their love of learning and scholarship, elevated the craft to new heights. And now you, in your small workshop, continue that legacy. There's something humbling in knowing that your work, though humble in its own way, will contribute to this long tradition of preserving knowledge. Historians still debate whether the Ottoman Empire's unique style of bookbinding was a reflection of its cultural values or a response to the increasing demand for books in the empire. One thing is certain: the Ottomans created some of the finest bookbindings in the world, combining functionality with ornate beauty. You think about the books you've bound over the years, each one unique, each one carrying a piece of history. Some will end up in the hands of scholars, others in libraries, and perhaps a few will find their way into the hands of kings or sultans. But every book you've created is a vessel of knowledge, a part of something much larger than you. After the tools are put away, you take one last look at the book on the shelf. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? The leather, the gold, leaf, the smoothness of the parchment, all of it working in harmony to create something that will last. You feel a quiet sense of pride as you study the cover, the edges adorned with gold, the pages carefully stitched and bound. It's a thing of beauty, but more importantly, it's a vessel for the wisdom it contains. The knowledge it holds will live on, whether it's passed down to future generations or simply kept in a library, a silent guardian of ideas. As you step outside to take a breath of fresh air, the cool breeze of the evening greets you. Istanbul, with its winding streets and ancient buildings, seems peaceful in the dark, the soft glow of lanterns illuminating the way. You feel a sense of belonging here in this city, where history and modernity coexist in a delicate balance. It's in these quiet moments, when the workshop is left behind for the day that you feel most connected to the past, connected to the craftsmen who came before you, who spent their lives creating books that would survive the ages. But for tonight, there's nothing more to do. You've completed the book, you've cleaned your tools, and now it's time to rest. The world outside may be bustling, but inside your small workshop, there's peace. The only sound is the soft hum of the night, the distant voices of the city, and the faint rustle of parchment. You can feel the weight of the books you've created over the years, the knowledge, the history, the beauty. And as you head to bed, you know that tomorrow the process will begin again. The work never truly ends. It's a cycle that repeats itself, a rhythm that has lasted for centuries. But for now, the day is over and there is rest. The book is done and your work is complete. As you drift off to sleep, you feel the weight of the book resting in your hands, and you smile, knowing that the stories, the knowledge, and the art you've created will live on long after you've gone. The morning comes with a gentle whisper, the first rays of sunlight slipping through the small cracks in the window, brushing across the well-worn workbench. You wake, feeling the pull of another day's work. Though your body craves the rest it was given just a few short hours ago. But the craft calls to you, just as it always has. The routine is familiar. Rise, stretch. Make your way to the workshop and set about bringing raw materials to life. But today feels different. There's a quiet anticipation in the air, a subtle energy that reminds you of the first day you picked up your tools, the first book you bound. Your fingers itch to start, and your mind already begins to turn over the tasks ahead. Today, you'll begin a new manuscript, another book to add to your ever-growing legacy. The thought excites you, but you also feel a certain calmness, the knowing that you are a part of something much larger than yourself. With every book you complete, you are weaving your own thread into the tapestry of history. You make your way to the shelf where your latest work rests. The book you finished last night gleams in the soft morning light, its gold-embossed cover reflecting the light like a beacon. You can almost hear the weight of the knowledge inside the stories that will one day unfold as its pages are turned. A scholar may one day read it, or a sultan may add it to their library. Wherever it goes, the knowledge and beauty contained within will survive just as books have survived for centuries. The work you do, the craft you pour your heart into, has a timeless quality. You're preserving not just the physicality of the book, but the very soul of the ideas it holds. Historians often marvel at the way certain books have survived throughout the ages, how some texts, bound and preserved hundreds of years ago, continue to be read and appreciated today. The secret lies in the care that went into their creation, the dedication of the artisans who poured their souls into the process. You are part of that tradition. Each book you bind is a small miracle, a piece of history that will endure. As you sit down at the workbench, you look around at the tools laid before you. The knife, the needle, the threads, the leather, the parchment. These simple instruments are all you need to create something extraordinary. You begin your work, each motion familiar, yet always slightly different. The parchment is cut with precision, the leather smoothed and carefully pressed into place. There's a comfort in the repetition of it all, the rhythmic hum of the process that lulls you into a quiet, meditative state. The world outside may be loud, chaotic, and ever-changing, but in this small workshop, there is peace. The pages are stacked in front of you, ready to be bound together. You take a moment to reflect on the task at hand. It's a simple act, binding paper together to preserve knowledge, but it's one that requires immense care and focus. The stitches that run through the pages, the leather that wraps them, the ink that fills each page, each of these elements contributes to the final work. But what truly makes a book special is the intention behind it, the purpose it serves in the world. Books have always held the power to change minds, to inspire movements, to preserve cultures. They are more than just words on a page. They are the lifeblood of human history, passing down knowledge, art, and philosophy from one generation to the next. And you, in your quiet workshop, are a part of that tradition. The books you create are vessels for the stories, ideas, and wisdom that will carry the world forward. You begin stitching the pages together with the delicate needle, the thread slipping easily through the parchment. It's a slow process, but one that brings a sense of satisfaction. With each stitch, the book begins to take shape. The weight of the pages, the bend of the leather, the shine of the gold, all of it comes together in a beautiful harmony. And as you finish the first few stitches, you realize that this is the moment when a simple collection of pages becomes something far greater. It becomes a book, an object that will carry ideas into the future, preserving them for generations to come. The quiet of the workshop wraps around you like a comforting blanket, and for a moment, you lose yourself in the task at hand. You are not just binding a book. You are connecting to something much larger than yourself. The books you create will live on long after you're gone, and in that, there is peace. There's something deeply fulfilling about knowing that the knowledge you're preserving will continue to shape the world. It's an honor, really. A small part of history, a bridge between past and future. That's what you create with every book, with every stitch, with every stroke of the pen, with every press of the leather. You are creating something that will endure. The books you make are not just physical objects. They are repositories of knowledge. They are treasures, and they are timeless. The thought is humbling, but also empowering. You in your small workshop are part of a greater legacy, a legacy of artisans and scholars who have worked tirelessly to preserve the wisdom of the ages. And as you finish the first few pages, you pause for a moment, surveying the work you've already done. There's a sense of satisfaction, a quiet pride in knowing that you are carrying on a craft that has lasted for centuries. You are part of something much larger than yourself, and with every book you bind, you are leaving your mark on history. The work continues as it always does. Tomorrow, there will be more books to bind, more knowledge to preserve. But for now, you sit back and reflect. You've done your part. The work will continue just as it always has, and you will be there in the quiet of the workshop, preserving history one book at a time. As the day comes to an end, the workbench is covered in the remnants of your labor parchment. Scraps, threads, empty ink pots, and the faint scent of freshly pressed leather. You look around at the books you've completed today, their spines sitting proudly on the shelf. Each one a testament to hours of dedication, patience, and care. But with every completed book, there's an unspoken truth: the work is never truly finished. For every book that leaves your hands, another is waiting in the wings, ready to begin its journey into the world. The clock on the wall ticks steadily, as you stand, stretching your back, feeling the satisfying ache of a day well spent. The evening air slips through the window, cool and gentle, bringing with it the sounds of the city winding down. You step outside for a brief moment, taking in the familiar sights and sounds of Istanbul. The bustling streets are quieter now, the calls of the street vendors replaced by the soft murmur of evening prayers. There's something comforting about the rhythm of life here, the ebb and flow of the city, the quiet persistence of the people. You think about how much time has passed since you first started bookbinding, how many manuscripts you've created, how many generations of artisans have come before you. As you walk through the streets, your mind drifts back to your work. Each book you've completed, every manuscript you've touched, will carry on in the world long after you're gone. They will continue to inform, to educate, to inspire, and to preserve the knowledge of those who came before you. And in a sense, you are part of something far bigger than yourself. You're not just a bookbinder. You're a keeper of history, a link in a chain that stretches across centuries. The knowledge, the beauty, and the stories that you bind today will be passed down to future generations. And in that, there's an incredible sense of fulfillment. Historians still debate whether the role of a bookbinder is that of a simple craftsman or something more profound. Some argue that a bookbinder is merely a technician, a laborer, who performs the necessary task of preserving books. Others, however, believe that a bookbinder is an artist, a creator, who imbues each manuscript with life. You've come to realize that there's truth in both perspectives. The work you do is both technical and artistic. It requires skill, precision, and an intimate understanding of materials, but it also requires a certain sense of soul, an understanding that the books you create will become part of a larger story, that they will continue to shape the future long after you've turned off the lamp and closed the door to your workshop. You step into your modest home, the faint smell of fresh bread wafting in from the kitchen. The day's work is done, but you know that tomorrow, the cycle will begin again. More books to bind, more knowledge to preserve. But for now, you sit down and take a moment to reflect on the journey. It's a quiet journey, one that moves slowly, one stitch at a time. But it's also a meaningful one. The work you do isn't just about making a living. It's about preserving something valuable, something timeless. The books you create today will shape tomorrow. In the small, seemingly insignificant acts of stitching, pressing, and illuminating, you're ensuring that knowledge will continue to be passed down through the ages. The lamp flickers softly as you sip your tea, the warmth of the cup in your hands, grounding you in the present moment. You think back to the first book you ever bound, the way your hands trembled with uncertainty, unsure if you could truly create something worthy. But now, with years of experience behind you, there's no doubt in your mind. The process is ingrained in you, and you know that the books you create are not just objects. They are vessels of knowledge, of history, of humanity. You've become part of the legacy of those who came before you. And one day, someone else will take up this work, continuing the tradition. With the knowledge of your craft firmly in your hands, you allow yourself to relax. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new books, but for tonight, you rest easy, knowing that the work you've done will last. The books you've bound will continue to carry ideas and stories into the future as the hands that crafted them fade into memory. But the knowledge, the beauty, the stories they will live on. And that is enough. As you lay down for the night, the soft hum of the city lulls you to sleep. The book on the shelf, the tools in your workshop, and the steady rhythm of your craft are all reminders that you are part of something eternal. The world will continue to turn, but for now, in this small moment, you are content. The work is done, and it's time to rest. Sweet dreams.